What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy with No Holds, and I am here with, man, this dude right here has got a servant's heart like no other. I'm telling you, man, I have seen him.
That's what they keep telling me.
Oh, dude, yes. As soon as you stepped into Expand and then just seeing you just serve pretty much without having to be told, I guess, throwing the trash, sweeping, just doing all sorts of things. Like, that's amazing, man. And his name is James Jacobs. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. How you doing, Jeremy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Dude, I'm very honored that you're on here. Getting to know you, circles, and here at Expand, dude. I love your energy. I love your heart, your faith, your love for the students, and your love to serve, man. It's amazing, bro.
Man, that's just me. I mean, I don't know what else to say on that. I know no better. So
Yeah.
I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. Yes, sir. All right, couple questions. Favorite color?
Green and blue, either one.
Green and blue. Nice. Favorite food?
Food? Man, that's tough. I just like red meat, I'll be honest with you.
Red meat?
Yeah.
Anything red meat?
Anything red meat.
There you go. No, that's good. Heck yeah, I like red meat.
I mean,
sometimes.
I used to love Mexican food, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
but I'm a red meat kind of guy right now.
Heck yeah, there you go. A talent that you have that nobody knows about.
Man, I don't know. That's I don't know. It's probably seeing things 2 or 3 levels higher. And by that I mean like kind of scheduling stuff out. I can see things how they're going to move together. It's kind of being a stopgap too. I think I've told you all that before, but filling the gaps, being that guy that's going to fill the gap and see where the gap is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Nice.
I don't know. I don't know if that's truly a talent, but
No, that's good. That's good. The worst advice you've ever received.
Worst advice I ever received. Man, I think probably the worst. Can I go with a saying?
Well, yeah, saying.
Man, I think that all is fair in love and war is probably one of the worst ones for me. But
And why is that?
it's just definitely not true. When it comes down to it, the definition. Then it comes down to the definition of what love is, and our perception, our understanding of love. But what love truly is completely different than what we perceive it.
Yeah.
And so, how can everything be true, or how can everything be fair in love and war when we don't define it correctly?
Nice.
I think as well, the idea of war is a little bit different than what I used to think it was, with the perception. And I probably could have, at one point in time, I was kind of a little bit of a war hawk or a warmonger, for sure.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, he knew my heart and didn't let me go back on the second deployment, because I don't know if I'd have come back. Like, I think I'd have stayed over.
Yeah.
So.
Gotcha. No, we're going to get into that for sure. Heck yeah. The best advice you've ever received.
Best advice I ever received. Man, straight up, just trust God. I know we'll get into that too later on, and putting that, maybe not to the test is the right word, but experimenting with how far that goes. I believe in the scriptures it does say, test me on that.
Yeah.
But that's more for tithing, if I remember correctly. But it just comes down to, trust God, and the rest comes.
Yeah. That's good. If you can go back and talk to your teenage self, what advice would you give him?
Man, I'd say, that's a tough one, because I would love to say, be strong and confident in who you are. But I think I have to add a few more words to that. Be strong and confident in who you are in Christ. We moved when I was right before I went to high school, so and moved church, and then kind of had a lay period where I wasn't with church, and then I was also in a spot that's notorious for not being godly anyway. But just kind of wandered there for a minute.
Yeah.
For a spell.
Where did you I was going to ask another question, but I'll ask later. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland.
Born and raised there.
Yep. I was there until the age of 13. And like I was telling you earlier, I think in my heart I was saved earlier because I knew who Jesus was, or I knew that he was my Savior. But I was confirmed Methodist at the age of 13.
Oh, okay.
And then we moved like probably 6 or 8 months right after that.
So you grew up your whole, like, that whole time there, you grew up in church?
Yeah, I don't know about early on. I remember going to like preschool at our church. That's where we went. That's where I went. I remember, I think he even did, or like pre-K. I think I did pre-K there. And then I remember going through a bunch of the children's classes there. And then I remember going through UMYF and doing doing youth group and traveling there. I think I went on 2 or 3 trips. I can't remember. My memory on that's kind of hazy, but yeah, we used to do bake sale and do cookies and all other stuff at the fellowship hall. It's one of the things I really loved about Maryland.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I really missed about church too. So
Gotcha.
it was good, that kind of fellowship and stuff.
Yeah. You have any siblings?
I don't. I'm an only child.
Only child. Okay. So how was your relationship with your parents growing up?
I loved my dad growing up. My dad was an iron worker, and so he was around here, and then he'd be sometimes on the weekends. It was kind of spotty up until he's probably about 2 years younger than I am, and then he started his own business doing carpentry. But I loved my dad. I loved my mom too. I spent a lot of time with my mom. My mom was a hairdresser, and so she was self-employed and did that for years and years and years. I want to say almost like 3 decades or over.
Yeah.
And my grandparents at that point in time, my dad's side, they owned a farm, and so my uncle, he had cows. We'd bale hay and buck hay and stuff like that, and cut hedgerows with chainsaws. I didn't get to run it, but you get to go through that, and then log split, burn hedgerows, get poison ivy, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Dang it.
Built, and then at one point in time, we built a log cabin in West Virginia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my family did. My mom and dad, and we had a bunch of family friends that helped us.
Still there?
Yep.
Still there. Nice.
Yes, sir. I haven't seen it, but they sold it. But
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
yeah, when we moved, it was just about finished, and then when we moved, they finished it up and sold it. And I believe, if I remember correctly, it's not like it's that big of a deal, but I think the house in Maryland sold for more than that house and had more acreage in West Virginia. So it was,
Oh, wow.
but I remember a lot of that time running around putting shingles on and stuff like that.
What were your friends like growing up in Baltimore or Maryland? Yeah.
Well, we were kind of a different community where we were at, because we were in Baltimore County. I was on the Baltimore County, Carroll County line. We're still kind of rural. We still had 4-H. We actually did, if I remember correctly, we did 4-H at our church. It was at our fellowship halls where we did it. But a lot of farm boys. My best friends, I think, would probably push the boundaries or push the envelope quite a bit, that I recall. But we had some friends that were over in Carroll County, which is about a half an hour, 45 minutes away. I remember them being pretty down to earth, or they were pretty well on like kind of a straight line. Their dad was an ex-Marine and went through Vietnam and stuff like that. So he was a Marine vet. And they were pretty straight. The other two that I recall, they pushed the envelope here and there, and it seemed like I was always the one that was kind of like, man, bring it back in a little bit,
Yeah.
But I was younger than them too. So
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I grew up around, at that point in time, I think I was probably 3 to 5 years younger than most of my friends around there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And why is that? Just
I
you
think
just got along with them a whole lot more than.
I think it's who we had around.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'd have to ask my mom and dad. But we had a mile-long driveway that we walked up on the way home, and we had one neighbor that was probably within a quarter mile.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think their youngest over there was probably 3 to 5 years younger than me. So at that point in time, pretty young. And then their middle child was probably about a year or two older than me, and then their oldest was 3 to 5 years older
Oh, okay.
than me. So that's who we had around.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. And you said 13, then y'all moved.
Yep.
And where did y'all move to after that?
We moved to Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. How was that? How was that transition?
Man, that was different. It was really different. Like I said, my parents finished up the house in West Virginia. So I had an aunt and uncle. By blood, it was on my dad's side. My aunt was by blood. So I went and stayed with them. I think I left in May or June. And my mom and dad didn't get there until, I want to say, September, October. So I kind of had like 4 months where I just was living with my aunt and my uncle, going to school, got into horse riding, all that stuff. My uncle was a bit of a cowboy, probably the definition of how Toby Keith's song, should have been a cowboy. I mean, that was one of his favorite songs, but he did team penning and stuff like that. And actually he had a horse that was from Pecos, Texas, so really good horse, but just kind of rode around. So moved from basically one rural portion to another rural portion of Vegas, which everything's encroached around it now. It's kind of different now too. So I guess unfortunately for me, if you ever think about, hey, I should go back home, it's kind of tough because to try to get that same feel, it's just not there. Seminole's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's not really close, it's really, really close.
Right. It's right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you play any kind of sports in school?
I played in Maryland. I played Little League baseball. Played a lot of outfield, and then I went over to football and played football. And I played football probably from the time I want to say 8, but I want to say it was younger than that because the more I've got still some stuff in boxes that I look through, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot longer than I thought. But I played all the way through high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What position did you play in football?
I mainly played line. I was always smaller than everybody, but I always played line. I played center a lot. I learned how to long snap. I played defensive end. I played inside linebacker, defensive tackle. I actually, when I graduated, or when I lettered my junior and senior year, I played defensive tackle as, I think I was probably 165 to 175 pounds.
Oh, wow. Defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle, yeah, so playing inside line. And I was still second or third string center. I played all offensive line, left, right, guard, tackle, center. Whatever you wanted me to play, I'd play it. And
Nice.
long snap it. What else? I didn't really come off the field. I didn't like coming off the field.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's probably, you're talking about me picking up the trash and stuff like that. That's, hey man, just keep me in the game.
Yeah, dude, that's nice. Got it. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. What were your friends like there in Vegas? Did you graduate in Vegas?
I did.
What were your friends like there?
Really diverse. We had, so my elementary school was pretty diverse too, though, as far as everything goes. I remember we had some Asians that I believe were Chinese. We definitely had people that were from Pakistan. A lot of blacks. There was us. I don't know who. I don't think we had any really Hispanics that I recall
In
Maryland.
Maryland?
That I recall, but that doesn't mean that I was really looking. Especially back then, I think I looked through some of the pictures I still got, and I'm like, wow, that was really crazy. Actually, a lot of Jews too. I had a lot of Jewish friends that were in school. I almost forgot about that. But then when we moved to Vegas, it was different. It was a lot different. I hung out with a lot of people. Just different.
Yeah.
I don't know. So my high school as well that I went to 2 high schools at the same time. I went to what they call magnet high school. So it was you had to apply for it basically. It was still public school, but you had to have a higher GPA you had to write an essay to get in, stuff like that. So it was more, I guess, advanced.
Oh, okay.
I ended up graduating with, I think, like 27 college credits back when dual credit wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
I had to take the AP test on several classes, but it was really, so then I'd go and play at my home school is what they called it. So where I was zoned, I'd go home and play. I think I was telling somebody the other day, I used to get up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and have to ride the change buses 3 times to get to my school. Yeah, and then still go on, and then get on a sports bus in the afternoon and then ride almost 45 minutes to my home school to go to practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, so you had friends, I guess, of course, in both schools.
I did.
Did one school think maybe you were too good to go to that school? Like the other school say, like, oh, why is he here? You know, he goes to this.
No, not really. I don't think. Actually, my home school was Centennial, and I knew every time I walk around, everybody knew me, and it was just like I walk around, and everybody. I could not go anywhere, and probably I would call her my first true girlfriend. She went with me one time around Centennial, and she goes, "You can't go anywhere." I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Everybody knows you. You can't just like we can't go do anything." I was like, "Yeah, we can." I mean, it's just everybody knows you. It's not a big deal. Just be cordial about it.
Yeah.
You know, I actually like talking to people.
I can tell.
So-
I know that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it needs to be like that anyway. I mean, I don't like just. It's kind of awkward sometimes. You go out here and people don't even want to say hi. Sometimes, you know, it's just like, okay,
Right.
but no, it's good that you like to talk. You like to just conversate. You know, just conversating like we do sometimes. Sometimes I'll ask you some crazy questions, but you may respond that day or the next day. I like it.
No,
like
it's and like we've always talked about, you know, it's that one of those things that you don't truly ripen unless somebody else is there with you, kind of deal. You know, it's when I can think all day about something. I could be on the completely wrong direction on something and be like, that's why a lot of times you hear me out turn around like, man, am I off my rocker on this? Am I like, have I left the farm? Like, where am I? And
Yeah.
you'll turn around and be like, no, I think you got a really good perspective on that.
Yeah.
That's different. It's deep. Like I said, three levels deep. I'll keep running it out.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, yeah, definitely. So, how did everybody know you? I guess did you? I would say, did you go party a lot back when you were in high school,
no,
or was it just?
actually I never did. I didn't drink until I was overseas in Spain, and I was 19, and it was okay. It was one of those things in my household that, for sure, my father was pretty strict, especially when we moved. And there was always an expectation that unfortunately it seemed like when I was younger that I could never achieve. So it was always like, oh, you'd hit it, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, yeah, well, you should have done this way, or you should have done this. So it was a nonstop deal of continually get better.
Yeah.
Without knowing that you were trying to continue to get better. And then, you know, every now and again you'd break down and be like, man, I can't do anything right.
Yeah.
Even though you were doing all of it right, or at least hitting the expectation, it was like, man, at least in this world you're hitting the expectation, I guess I should say. So
No, I understand that for sure. So yeah, no parties, nothing when you were in high school.
I think I had friends my senior year. I also signed, you know, we would sign a contract, you know, with the school that would say in order for us to play, this is what it would be. And if you were found to do this, you were off the team. And I loved playing football.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. It was one of the things that I loved. I would do nothing else back then. It was like, man, that was the definition of James Jacobs back then, was like football player. And my senior year, I think I went to 2 parties. I didn't drink. I drove people home if they wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Being, I guess, a responsible adult, even though I wasn't. But
No, that's good. Like, yeah, church. Did you go to church in Vegas?
so we kind of had a little bit of a hiatus, and then we went back, and I went back with my mom.
Yeah, because you were saying it earlier that there was a time where you just kind of, you said you fell back, I guess, or just didn't.
Yeah, it's so originally, I went with my mom to the Methodist church. My mom's Baptist originally by raising, so but it was right down the street. Come to find out, that's where her dad would go, and so it was one of those things that's the reason why. And we would go. She would wake me up. There was a bunch of times I know I'd wake up kicking and screaming, I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go, I didn't want to go. And then she'd come home and I'd feel like this kind of, if I didn't go, she'd come home and I had been watching TV with my dad and I just felt kind of this drain, like just a heavy feeling in my heart. And so I started going with her a lot and then just kind of stayed and moved to Vegas. And like I said, right before we moved to Vegas, I had just been confirmed at that church. And then I had some really good church friends there. Liked where it was at. It was really going to miss a lot of people, you know. And then I don't know what happened. We just kind of fell into, I guess, a routine and trying to figure out how that town was such a culture shock, I guess, to us.
Oh, okay.
One of the things going, especially coming from a place where it snows and it's got trees everywhere and it's humid in the summer, and you know, if you didn't want to see somebody, just stayed at home kind of deal, or if you wanted to peruse, you just go down to the one or two shops in town and hang out and you can talk to everybody. And then we went to a town where it was 24/7 and everything's pulling you in a completely different direction at all times, and you're trying, especially the West Coast, where kind of in my perspective there's a little bit of exploitation of labor in it, as far as I don't think people probably get paid for what they're worth because there's so many of them. But you know, you're getting pulled everywhere, and I think a little bit of it is, you know, my parents probably trying to work two jobs, my dad trying to work with my uncle, trying to start his business in a similar realm, and then not having a good run of it. Was kind of it. Plus, my dad was really never into it. He was never into going to church. And then we kind of hit a wall as a family. And, you know, my mom and my dad weren't quite going at it. It was more of like, it was more of a passive aggressive type of deal, or jabs here and there, mainly by my father. But my mom just felt compelled to go back to church, so we started going to a non-anom down there. And it was good. It was good. Actually, we went, I want to say 3 years. I want to say it might have been my entire high school, but she would kind of have to force me. I was tired, man. I was doing football. I was keeping up grades. Like I said, I was going to school at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going and doing all that other stuff, all these other things that are just such a distraction from and pulling you away from God. When you really come to find out, when you start to think about it, we put all this time into everything else, and then we don't spend the time to sit down at night and read, or even worse, you know, pray. You're always trying to get. I was so focused on trying to get good grades. I was always doing homework. I was staying. A lot of times I'd have to stay up. Especially I remember when I was a senior. There was one time I was in Spanish class, Spanish year 2, and nobody turned in their project. But I ended up showing up late to my first period with it because of that, and hadn't slept all day. Man. Or all night. And my Spanish teacher was just like, "You're crazy." And she was like, "Look at everybody else." And I said, "But the expectation is supposed to be due today."
Yeah.
You know, and how was I supposed to know? But yeah, then we started doing that. And I got some my junior and senior year. Got in. I had a really good best friend that he went to the same church, and I got pulled into the youth group over there, and we started doing small groups, and I really liked it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Dude, 3 a.m.
It was rough.
So and you did that all the way through senior year?
Man, no, because I started driving, I think, my junior year.
Okay, yeah.
And so instead of being 3 a.m, it was like 5:30. So.
Yeah. But man, from freshman Sophomore, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
And then
wild.
I didn't play. I probably should have, but I didn't play any other sports. And then I just kind of started running on the off season. I don't know when that was. That was probably my junior year, but I decided I'm gonna run. I was looking originally. I was looking at going to the Naval Academy or the Air Force Academy. I think I told you a little bit about this. Like when I was still in Maryland, my dad told me at one point in time when I was 11 years old, you're going to college. You're for sure moving out when you're 18, but I'm not paying for it. So I was like, okay. And me being young and probably just going with what was easy, I was like, well, your older brother went to a military academy and he paid for it, or they paid for it. I'll just go to a military academy.
Wow. Like, wow. 18. It's like I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, 18, you're out of the house.
You're on your own.
You're on your own.
Don't call me for anything.
You're going to college.
Going to college.
Yep.
Man, at that time, what was going through your head?
I don't know. At that point in time, I was like, well, I think I was doing the math. I'm a big math guy, so I'm like, I got 7 years to figure this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I exactly thought about that, but I remember he was like 18, and as as you are as a kid, you're like, man, that's a long time.
Yeah.
That's 7 years. That's a long time. I'll be forever old by then. You know? No. No, it comes a lot faster than you think,
yes,
for
it
sure.
does. Yes, it does.
That's what. So I just started striving for it. You know, I still played football, and I think I even said that to my dad, and he goes, "Well, this is what you're gonna have to do."
So was your dad, did he encourage you any, or was he hard on you a lot? I mean, I know you said a lot of the times you felt like you had to prove, I guess, yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any kind of encouragement there at all?
Nah, not really. I would say in general, my dad was pretty stoic across the board. He would come watch football practice, and he'd be over, and I mean, just like this the entire time, just kind of watching what's going on. Get in a truck, and we wouldn't say a whole lot.
Yeah.
When I was way younger, I guess up until I was probably 5 or 6, we'd play around. Probably like you see me play around with Jade's kids and stuff, and he'd pick me up by the foot and whatnot. So that's probably where I get that, but not really.
Yeah. What about your mom? Whenever it came to football and just anything in school, like you come home with good grades, straight A's, any kind of encouragement there, any kind of praise or
the way we did it, or at least the way it was done for me, was that I think I got $1 for each A. So that's kind of how it was. The reward was the money, and we didn't have a whole lot of money. I didn't know that. I thought we were some of the richest people in the world. The way how much we lived, we had 3.5 acres, and whenever I wasn't doing homework back then in Maryland, I was all over the place chasing deer, chasing rabbits, building forts in the woods. I mean, just being a pioneer and living it.
yeah.
So to me, it was just like, man, this was the greatest thing in the world. But
Wow.
played football, I liked it. Was told originally when I started playing, I think the first year, and I started playing line, they said he's really good. He's really technically good. He's got really good steps, but he's too nice.
Too nice.
Too nice.
Man, yeah, I think I can see that too.
Yep.
I don't know if I want to know the bad side of you, but
Yeah,
hopefully it don't ever get there. But no, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too nice.
Yeah, that was something that I guess kind of kicked around the back of my head, especially for a while, was that he's good, he knows what he's doing, but too nice, and that's, those are words of men, right? So.
Yeah. Man, you ever tried opening up to your parents, to your dad?
I talk to my mom a lot. I've tried talking to my dad about a lot of this stuff. I forgive him. So that's one of the biggest things. That's where I forgave him, and that burden was taken off of me, and gave that up to God, to where I don't have to carry that burden. Because how can you even attempt to love another person if you are still holding a grudge against somebody else that you felt should love you? Right? Had maybe the duty or the responsibility to.
Yeah.
And there's no, not saying my dad didn't love me. Maybe I just didn't perceive it as much. I know he did. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
He put a roof over my head. He put food on the table. Well, my mom did a lot of the time because she made a lot. She worked a lot and picked up different jobs if she needed to, extra side jobs to make sure that we had food on the table. When my dad was working as a welder, he did really well. As an iron worker, he did really well. But when he started doing his own business, he didn't have as much success. He did the carpenter stuff, and I really liked it. I remember one time we were on my grandmother's farm, and we were down there. We were talking with I say it was my grandmother. It was my grandmother, my grandfather. My grandfather had passed on, I think, by then, so that's why I still call it my grandmother's farm. But they had a trailer house that they would rent, and the family would stay there. The man, he was a carpenter as well. My dad and he were, just chewing the fat a little bit. And his name was Joe, and Joe turned to me and said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I said, "Man, I want to be a carpenter." And he goes, "Why?" I said, "That's what my dad does." And my dad looked at me and goes, "Don't be a carpenter." And I looked back at both of them. I said, "Well, that's what Jesus was." And they both just kind of looked at me and were like, "Why would you want to be a carpenter?"
Wow.
I like to build things, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. So you got pretty deep into the Bible and pretty deep into church, I guess. Because of saying that, to your dad and to that other guy, like you knew the Bible, I guess the Bible pretty well.
I probably knew it better then, and the reason why, like I was telling you, I think probably one of the first times I've seen you, I have what men call, the photographic memory. But I can hear it once, or I used to, especially when I was young. I'd hear it once and I'd have it. So I might not have read it.
No.
But when they were preaching it or talking it, I heard it and I had it.
Yeah.
And it might have been that week that they were talking about, Jesus being a carpenter, and it just hit me. I was like, I want to be a carpenter too. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
People need houses. People need things made. They need door locks.
Yeah.
Yes,
sir. No, yeah. No, wow. That's crazy.
So
it's not crazy. It's cool, but
there's that. I mean, that's the good portion, and then I don't know if you want to move on or how you want to do that.
No, I mean, if you got something else to say to add to that, I want to hear it.
The next portion is then you go into the military.
Yeah. Well, that was actually something I wanted to ask. Like, what got you into that? Got you into thinking, hey, I want to join the military?
Man, I think running around in the woods, especially, I had a bunch of friends. That's what we played, man. We played Army. It was one of those things if you hear some of the interviews that they do with, like, I believe it's Charlie Company, that Chris Kyle was with, and his LT, and he said from day one, man, that's what I knew I wanted to be. I wanted to be Special Forces. And every time I hear that, I'm like, man, that's what I wanted to be. Back when I was a kid, I just wanted to run around in fatigues and nobody see me and do whatever and come through and be a cool guy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
The perception. And plus the other portion of, 18, you're out here, nobody's paying for it. We don't have the money for it. So I ended up, my uncle flew planes. He went to the Air Force Academy. And he flew for Southwest back when Southwest really started to get big. He retired from the Air Force and went right into Southwest, and I was like, you know what? My uncle's doing pretty well. Well, I want to fly planes. And my dad was like, go to the Naval Academy. And I was like, why? He was like, because it's back in Maryland, and you got more family there. And I was like, yeah, but if you want to fly planes, you just don't go to the Naval Academy. You go to the place that fly planes. That's Air Force Academy. So I applied for all three. I applied for West Point. I applied for the Naval Academy and Air Force Academy, and I got into 4. I got into West Point, Naval, Air Force, and Merchant Marine. I think it's, yeah, Merchant Marine. And so I had my pick of where I wanted to go. And looking back at it, I probably should have gone to the Naval Academy, but to be honest with you, I really should have gone to West Point at all of it after going through the Army and deploying with the Army. It was good. I liked it. I liked it better than the rest. It just seemed more like family, or at least what my perception of family was back then. That we take care of each other.
Yeah.
For the most part, unless you got bad leadership, and then you're just kind of screwed all the way around. But that's where that was. So I went to Air Force Academy for 2 years, and that was a thing. I played rugby for 2 years. I was up there too. Absolutely loved it.
Rugby.
Yeah.
Dude, that is actually something I've started to kind of get into. I'm still learning the rules and everything else, but man, those dudes are huge.
Yeah.
And they're rough, like just super rough, man. So how was that?
And so, and keep in mind on this, so I went through basic there, and I dropped 50 pounds. I went at 198 pounds, and I came out at 148 after like 6 or 8 weeks. And
solid muscle though.
Yeah, I looked really sick. I'll show you. I'll get you a picture later. But I came out at like 148 pounds, and I was playing high altitude too, you know. But I loved it. I loved playing it. I was good at it too. It's one of those things. But I separated both of my shoulders. I was telling Pastor Mike that 2 nights ago.
Man.
Separated both my shoulders, broke both my thumbs, broke my nose, dislocated three.
All because of rugby.
Yeah, dislocated 3 ribs, dislocated both collarbones. This one here and that one there. And then the last time I shifted a bone in my neck, and I couldn't turn but do like this for like 2 weeks, and I finally got it popped back in, and I said, I think I'm done. After all that, right?
Yeah. Wow, man, that's intense.
Yep.
How long did you play?
2 years.
2 years.
I think most of my injuries started like the first year. I think I had 2 or 3 concussions that I recall.
So what, like I'm not real familiar either, like with the positions and stuff that they have. Like what was your job?
I played pack, which is basically equivalent to playing line. And the cool thing about playing pack, though, is usually you're bigger than most of the backs. And if you're decently quick, you get a good hit on a smaller guy. And the other thing is, too, that you get to pick the ball, and you get a lot more time with the ball than when you're playing football line.
Yeah.
And then if the backs are like, hey, give us the ball, you're like, no, I'm picking this one. You know, I played football for so many years that where I didn't get to run the ball, I'm running it this time. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but we did pretty well. We ended up beating when I was there. The University of Northern Colorado had won the year prior had won the national championship, and we beat them. We beat them pretty good.
Oh wow.
We had a total of 4 sides, so 2 teams. We had A and B side, and then C and D side. And I played C and D my freshman year, and then got bumped up. I played all 4 sides the next year, wherever they needed me. Same thing, like I was telling you. The more I look back on it, I'm just a stopgap. Wherever you need somebody that'll carry the mail, I'll carry the mail. Without question, just don't take me out of the game.
Dang. Man, no, watching it on TV, and I'm just like, wow. Like I said, I'm still barely getting to know the sport, but yeah, all the positions and then the rules that they have, I'm still not familiar with. But
so the cool thing about it is the numbers actually mean something in that game. So there's 15 guys, 1 through 15 for the most part, unless you got a guy that you swap out, and they usually have a different number, like 22 or something else, a higher number. But you're, man, it's been a while. Number 2's hook, and then you got 2, if I remember correctly, two props, 2 locks, 2 flankers, technically 3 flankers, but 8-man's also flankers. They call them 8-man. Then you got scrum half, fly half, wing, outside wing, stuff like that. And I could be wrong. Somebody will watch us and be like, that guy has no idea what he's talking about with the backs, because I don't remember backs.
Well, no, I mean, it sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I believe you.
Right?
Dude, wow, man, That's intense, man. That's pretty cool though.
Yeah.
I never met anybody that's played rugby, so yeah, I don't even know if I'd want to play it after listening to the injuries you got.
Man, it was good. I knocked a guy out one time at Colorado State. It was the first game I played 8-man, and he decided it was a scrum. It was a scrum half. He decided he was going to pick the ball out of a scrum. You know, when they come together, it looks like a car crash and there's a bunch of stuff going on, and all of a sudden the ball comes out, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't know what that was, but yeah.
That's a scrum. So that happens on certain penalties and certain spots in the field and stuff like that. But yeah, he came and he picked it, and I had my head. A lot of times, the 8-man will keep their head in and in through the legs, so they'll be able to see the ball. But I had figured out during practice that week that if I set off like this and I could keep my head down, I could also see and watch where the rest of my flankers were at, to where if their heads were still, if they were looking in, a lot of times the scrum half will read the flanker. If his head's looking in, they're going to take it right off because that flanker won't be able to release. He won't see you, and you'll get like 10 meters, because everything's in meters, but you'll get 10 meters pretty quick. And I seen that my flanker's head was in, and I seen him pick that ball, and I was like, mine. And I met him on the other side of the scrum and absolutely dislocated him from the ball. It looked like a hospital pass.
Dang it.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
We scored on it too. We ended up winning that game pretty good.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Oh, man, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if I'd play it, but.
They used to say, man, give blood, play rugby.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that for sure, yeah.
Yeah. I caught an elbow one time when I broke my nose, and it opened up. And I looked like Last of Mohicans, man, where it started turning that real dark brown. Oh, nobody wanted to touch me. I had such a great game.
And you kept playing.
I kept playing.
Even when you got, like, say, what else did you break? You dislocated your collarbones,
Yep.
You kept playing.
Kept playing. When I dislocated my shoulders too, I kept playing. And actually, that was when I was playing CD side, and we were scrimmaging A and B. And so I hit a guy. His last name was LeMay. I only remember him because there was one of the Air Force commanders back in the day was Curtis D. LeMay or something like that. But I remember hitting him, man. I hit him one time, and he dislocated this one. And I was like, I'm not gonna hit him with that shoulder again. That hurts. And so he came back again, and nobody would hit him. Come to find out, there's a reason why. But I hit him with the right one, and I separated both. And I had a bone contusion from basic, where I had the bottom 1/3 of my femur was nothing but a bruise because I wouldn't stop running on it. So,
no pain, no gain, I guess.
Hey,
huh?
man, you gotta get through it.
There you go. Yeah. Wow, man. And you said there was a reason why you couldn't hit him.
Yeah, because he'd hit you hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people lose teeth doing it. I've seen people get lifted up in a mall and punch somebody in the mouth, which is highly illegal. But when the refs don't know any better, then it kind of goes to the wayside.
Dang it. That's intense but cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that's one of the best things that I liked about the Air Force Academy. But you can leave, because I hadn't signed, so I'd gone for 2 years. But I was coming up on when you sign. I think it's your junior year you sign. And I just decided I really didn't like the Air Force. The more we went out and did stuff, I was like, this isn't what I had in mind. Like, I really wanted to sleep in the dirt for some reason. I wanted it to be more like my childhood, with like running around, putting on green face paint all the time, running around in fatigues, carrying a weapon, humping stuff in. So I left. I resigned, which was a lot, man, to even get into that. You have to have a representative or a senator's basic, I can't remember what they call it. It's not a commission, but they have to say, yeah, I'll back you for it. I've got it sitting in my house.
And do you have to have a pretty good reason on why?
You want to go? Yeah, you have to write several essays. You have to have a high GPA. I think I graduated with a weighted GPA like 4.62, which was good enough for 6th in my class. and then you also have to show leadership ability. I was a captain on the football team my senior year, and also did stuff around the church. I had to be involved in several clubs in order to get in. They wanted a full, well-rounded kind of guy or gal. And so, like I said, I left. And at that point in time, I was still seeing my high school sweetheart. I think we had been together for like 2 or 3 years. We had just barely started going out before I left to go to the Air Force Academy. And so she was going to school at UNR, University of Nevada, Reno. And so I left. I was like, I'll just go and finish up at University of Nevada, Reno. I'll do ROTC. I'll go, because they had Army ROTC. I'll sign up for the National Guard as well and do both, because then I'll have 2 years worth of prior enlistment. And that's what I kind of wanted to do. So I went through and I did that. I did a year ROTC. I actually did what they call college first, where you go through and you do ROTC, and then on the weekends I would have to go to basically like a training school to get ready for basic, which I'd already been through one anyway. But I went through all that, and so when I went to basic, I ended up not going through and signing on for basically a letter of intent with ROTC. It was another thing. I was just like, man, this is a dog and pony show. So when I was thinking about, I want to do it, I said, I'll just stay and do my enlistment and be done with it. And the other thing that would kind of, at that point in time, talking to some of the guys that were in it and were going on ROTC that had been prior enlisted, they were talking about all their stuff about their deployment and this and that. And I was like, man, I'm going to miss it. This is going to be, it's like a once in a lifetime deal. Like, if you're going to experience it, but the next time it comes back around, I'll be 60 years old. So I remember turning to the colonel, and he was like, you have way more potential than doing what you're about to go do. I was like, yeah, but this is what I want to do. I want to deploy. And I think I deployed within 4 months after leaving there. I didn't even finish my last year of college. I went through, I did basic, did AIT, which is advanced individual training. So I got my MOSQ, my military occupational specialty qualification. And then went back to my unit. And that month they were like, hey, who wants to volunteer to go to Iraq? And I was like, this guy. Let me go. So signed up. Girlfriend hated it. Actually, I came back to, I had the opportunity right out at AIT. They said, hey, you've got a high enough PT score. Your DT score is high enough. Do you want to be airborne? I was like, yeah. And then I made the call home. And I just remember hearing, like, I can't even blame it on my girlfriend, but I could hear it in her voice that she was not going to be happy. It was going to be Christmas and I wasn't going to be home. And I was like, well, maybe I'll get another shot. No, you only get one shot. And I could have, and I didn't. But I know if I would have gone airborne, that I'd have signed over to active and been done. I did most of my time active anyway, though. So what's the difference? So I went through and did that. Went into. I was a mechanic, and then became a wrecker mechanic. So Hotel 8 qualified, so for recovery, and we would ride through and stuff like that, and ride with convoys. And then if anybody coming into, say, like Baghdad was like, hey, I got a downed vehicle that's over here that just got hit with an EFP or like an IED, then we would roll over and we'd have to go get it. And a lot of it was at night and stuff like that. So there was a lot of guys that were married, had kids that we were with and stuff like that. I remember the first almost 6 months, I don't remember sleeping much at all. I know the first month I didn't sleep at all. I was up nonstop. And then we got worked for a long, long time. Just stayed up. It was almost like we were working, I don't know if, I've always said it was a 27-3, but I don't even remember if that's true anymore. It was a lot. We worked a lot. It was just nonstop. We had bad equipment, had to get it back up, had to do it in the field. I don't know, man. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was really chaotic. But at that point in time, I guess is what I needed. And then it started to get, that meanness started to kind of creep in to where you don't sleep. And then you don't interact with somebody because you've got this next truck that's coming in. They say in just about any military branch. The ones that are infantry or basically frontline fighters and the mechanics have one of the highest suicide rates. They're 1 and 2 back and forth. So I can see that argument as far as the mechanic went. It was like, okay, we just sent this truck over here. We just fixed that truck. And then the same one either goes down or one that looks just like it goes down. And you're just like, I cannot believe my life right now. And I don't know, it just kind of started creeping in. Another portion of that too, yet again, the words of man kind of creeped in of, they would always tell us, at some level, somebody has already said that you are you're an acceptable casualty of war. So just accept it. So you kind of lose, it creeps in. At first it doesn't, when you start to get tired and you're just like at the end, or you're just like, man, I just gotta go hook this truck so that way we can be done today. And then one of the guys in the truck would be like, because there's only 2 of us, the driver would be like, just be careful. And you'd be like, I don't even care anymore. Just give me the sweet release. And it's just terrible. It's a terrible mindset. It creeps in and you start to have this self-worth just goes straight down. And you get trained to everything where it's just a reaction. You read the people around you, and you just react. When I first got back, we would talk. Like if we were talking, I would hear 10% of what you were saying. And 90% was in the way you were standing, your body language, how you'd look at me, whether or not you itched your nose while you're talking to me, whether or not you looked away, how you held your head. If there was anything else, if there was somebody over here, I was looking as well. I'd be watching this guy too. Is this guy watching me? Watching you? Is he watching you while we're talking? Is this guy a threat? Is that guy over there a threat? And just nonstop sitting out here trying to see what is the next threat? Where is it? Trying to stay 3 levels ahead.
Yeah.
And I think I told you that when I first got back, we never, in Kuwait, if we were rolling into Kuwait, we never stopped at stoplights. We didn't do it in Baghdad either. We didn't stop at stoplights, but I remember for sure, because there were so many civilians in Kuwait, when we'd roll in, we would not stop at stoplights. We'd just roll straight through them. And that's how I remember on like the first time I got back and I was driving my car, I ran like 2 or 3 and I was like, I pulled over and I was just freaked out. I was like, whoa. We're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that could have been really, really bad.
Yeah.
And along with that, hand in hand with that, with the self-worth, this idea of you're already a casualty, and then you don't, it's already in the back. It's in the back of your mind. You just put it off. You're just like, man, I want to be home. I'll feel so much better when I get home. I'll do this, I'll do that. But it's still there because it's been ingrained in you now. You've kind of made it a piece of you. You've built, for some reason, we have built ourselves around it and been like, even though it's a hole, like it's a hole in the ground, and you're like, oh, we'll just put a manhole cover around it. It'll be fine. We'll just build around it. But it's a really big hole, so we'll just keep building around it, and we'll keep building around it. We won't fill it in. We'll just keep building around it. So then it starts to creep into that hole's still there, and you might walk around the entire town that you've built with yourself, and you still come back to that hole and go, man, I really like that hole. I really like that hole. And then that's when I volunteered for the second one and was like, so I forget how that came around, but somebody said, hey, did you do this in Iraq? I said, yeah. They said, well, they're trying to do it in Afghanistan now. Would you be interested? They're thinking they're going to kick it off. They're going to start it. You'll be the first one over there to do it. Send me. Sure. I mean, we used to say, I was already marked for death anyway. You know what I mean? That's kind of me and a few of my buddies. We were already marked for death anyway. So why not?
Yeah.
And that's a really terrible way to look at it. But it's where it was at that point in time. And I know that if I'd have gone, like I said, I'd have gone. And at that point in time, the meanness was there. I was drinking a lot, trying to not look at the hole, trying to be like, all right, well, I'll just fill it. And, they always, the guys that are in the military, or some of us that, man, it's hard to say that, because I mean, a 22 a day kind of deal is more than just 22 a day when it really comes down to it. But they used to say whiskey helps. It doesn't. It really doesn't. It made me so mean. It made me such a mean person. And then I tried to fill it. I'd drink, and then I'd want to fight. And it was one of those things that was, I remember at one point in time, I remember telling my friends, I said, you want to see a man destroy himself? Just sit back. And I was drinking scotch like it was going out of style. Got in a lot of fights. And at this point in time, I was into wildland fire. And it was like, man, during the day was amazing. Well, we ended up going, and we were going to go to Afghanistan. And then they said, no more deployments. Whoever's here is going to stay. That's what Obama said. So we got cut off. But we got basically mobbed. I got everybody trained up to go do it, which is what I had done at the other unit that I was at. And I wasn't very high in rank when it really came down to it back then. So if anybody's sitting there thinking, man, I'm just not ready, I'm a high enough rank, just do it. Figure it out. Just get into it and figure it out, especially if you've got faith and trust in God, and if you can spend time in the Word, if it's anything that's ministry related, or if it's even, just trying to affect the world around you, get into that. If we spent half of the time that we spent doing other things that pulled us away from God, this place would look amazing. It'd probably be pretty close to the kingdom of heaven, but yeah, pretty good at destroying things. I was doing that. I was on that. At that point in time, they were a Type 2 IA crew. They had just lost their Hotshot status because I think one or two people had left, but we still did the same job as a Hotshot. We actually worked right next to several Hotshot crews, and we were actually, my second year, we worked down in Yosemite, and we worked with two or three of them. We ended up cutting the LZ for Hueys and stuff to come take us out because we were hiking in miles and only getting so much cut because you would have to hike so far. The mountain there is like that, man, and there's like 22 miles of it to be cut, to finally get this deal. And so we finally cut this deal in this LZ. And it was funny. We went down to the incident command. They do a thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I remember our superintendent came back and he's all, man, we just got one of the best compliments I ever heard of. He goes, when people were flying out on the helicopter, the pilot said, how they used to do on the planes. They'd be like, if you look to your left, out your left window, you'll see the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
They would be like, if you look out to your left, out the left door, you'll see where Beckworth put in a new trail, because we used to cut it. It would be like 4 foot wide, and for the most part, to stop a fire, you only need 2 foot. But we would cut 2 foot, but everything we had as far as the spoils would be up all over everything. We had an amazing superintendent. Superintendent. It was 4 foot wide, and you could see it. You could see it flying out. So it was a lot. It was cool, man. I love dropping trees. I picked that up really fast too. I got my bee faller. I think first, right off my second year, right off. We did a lot of falling projects. Did a lot of hiking. Used to run a ton. Second year we were basically paid runners. We ran 30 something miles, 32 or 35 miles a week. We were running like minimum 5 to 7 miles a day. And then we come back and sharpen the saws, and if the saws were already sharpened, then we'd do something else, and then we'd go stack sticks all day and then go home and drink and all the other stuff.
Did you ever have an intense moment being a hot shot to where it was, stuff that you see on movies and yeah. We were on a small fire, which a lot of fatality fires happen on initial attack on small fires. This one was on our force, so we were initial attack. I think we were the first ones on scene, and we were split. And it was the other thing that was another watch out was dropping RHs, too many spots. It's too many spot fires that you can't control, and we were having all that go on. And so we were trying to fight this one
this one spot fire was starting to get real big. It was coming, and it was in timber, and it was going. It was starting to go and grow and grow. And we only had like 3 toolers. Usually if we ran progressive, we do what they call leapfrog, and then we did progressive, and then we kind of coined a term inside of the crew that year that we would run a leapgressive, to where we would with the saws we kind of leapfrog on the saws to get the saw cut really good, and then everybody else would cut like they would cut. I don't know how to describe it. They would cut together on the tools. But we were running through this, and my saw partner, who was swamping for me, and he was in the Army as well, and we had a really good chemistry. And it started, like I said, it started drying out. The fire's getting bigger, and I'm grabbing the tooler's tools because I'm like, dude, we got to catch this. If we don't catch this, it's going to be gone, and it's going to get big real fast. We're not going to catch this today. It'll be tomorrow, which, what is it? We just burn more sticks, but I'm competitive, and it's like, man, I want to get it now.
Yeah.
And so I bucked in. It was getting ready to get into this down snag, which is a dead tree. And this down snag was in there, and I turned to my swamper, and I was like, dude, keep an eye on that fire because I know it's coming. And he's like, all right, and it's coming, it's running uphill, and I'm up above it, and it was a worse spot to be because it's running. It runs uphill 3 times as fast as like people will run. It'll run at some point in time. They clock it at like 45 miles an hour. It's ridiculous. Dang. But I took that saw and I one-handed it, took it in, got the dog set in, and started running it over here. I don't remember why I was running it with one hand, but it was a reason. I think it was I couldn't get my body position. There was 2 trees or something. I had to get this section out in order to get it out, and that sucker went over, and as it did, that fire ran up in there in that bar oil, and then all that air got forced into it, and it immediately hit that, and it was right into there was still a snag right here in front of me. It hit that, and just almost like a bomb, and it was like immediately. And I had a beard, and it singed all of it off, and my swamper was right here. I pulled the chainsaw. I had somehow hit the chain brake and pulled the chainsaw immediately, and I put my helmet right into his stomach and ran him into what we called a rock scree. It was just a bunch of rocks that were on the side of the mountain, and ran it out through that. But I came out, I had no beard, and we walked down, and that rock scree ran down to where we had originally started cutting line. So we started coming and cutting all the way back up, and my boss, who was my best friend and still is, actually his godson, or my godson is his son. Like I'm walking up, and he's over there looking like,
yeah,
what's going on? Like, and he's like freaking out, and I come and walk, and I'm standing behind him like, what are you doing? He goes, dude, we thought you guys like ate it. We thought we were about to have to go over the radio like you guys were dead. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I was pretty bad when that snag went up, dude. It was like immediate. And we walked all the way back, and I said, yeah, I think it's probably time to start fighting this a little bit different. So, yeah, really close there, but I was never scared in that. If that makes sense. Even in Iraq, I was never scared on any of that stuff. I never had any of that anxiety and that stuff. I just always felt like I was doing the right thing. I was still in the game. Yeah. And somebody was going to take care of me somehow. Yeah. Even though I still, like I said, we had that really dark kind of humor of, you're already marked for it anyway, or, your self-worth is down here. That type of stuff. And then I left it. I had a buddy from the deployment. He was having a rough time, and he was getting out. And he was like, well, I need to get a job. Yeah. He's like, you know of any jobs? And this was like right after.
So how long did you do that?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. They said that second year that I did it, it's still on that. They still talk about that crew that year. That's kind of that deal. And like they said, as far as the crew cohesion, the way it was, how much work we did, how much everybody was together, that there was such athletic guys there. We had 2 or 3 guys that had just got off deployment that were really there, and just that's what we wanted to do. It was good.
Did you ever lose anybody?
No. We were. Here's the other thing too. Every year they have to do. You have to do a refresher course on as far as like a deployment, as far as getting into the deployment shelter if you're going to get burned over. And even our second year, we were so cohesive even off the first like 2 days that they started grabbing people's practice shelters and just tossing them, being like, what happens if somehow you drop your shelter on the way here? I had another guy that he got in my shelter. It's 95 degrees outside. It's pretty hot too, or it's pretty humid at this point in time. And then we've been cutting line all day. Everybody's hot, sweaty. And they throw this one, and I'm at this point in time, I'm probably about 205 pounds. And my buddy Mike's like, I hear somebody going, hey, I need to get in. I was like, get in. And so we're trying to figure out how he's going to get in. He just gets in, he gets on top of me, we throw it over, and then we had to stay in this deal for like a half an hour. And I don't do well with, like, back then I didn't used to do well with heat. I'm really warm natured. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things that was like, it's hot. It's hot. That's all I could go through my head was, it's hot. It's hot. It's hot. It's hot. It's hot. It's like one of those things, you're like, it's hot. Get me out of here kind of deal. And I don't know, I started thinking about, at some point when it got to that point, I was like, just settle down. Just relax. Just relax for a minute. Mm-hmm. Like, if you really had to do this, and I was thinking more about Mike. I was like, Mike, I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, if I have to get out of this thing, if we actually have to do this in real life and I get out of here, I would hate to have to be in, I would hate to have that on my conscience that I got out because I was hot to get into the heat, and I ended up killing Mike for it.
Yeah, yeah. How hot can those things get? Those shit, like, before it actually.
Man, that's a good question. I don't know. I think they say they're supposed to be up to like 600 degrees or something, but that fire gets way hotter than that.
Oh yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
That's why you're supposed to cut down everything around there. If you've got the time, get as much stuff out there. You don't want anything close to it to where you have a flame right on it. You don't want to be around any heavy stuff, heavy deadened down, because it's going to burn for a long time. It's going to burn hot. If you can, try to get in dirt. Really, if you can, set a backfire to get where you got all that out. But we never got to that point where we needed it. Just that one time like that. Fallen trees kind of deal. That's another one. You stand there and you're like, yeah, that won't hit me, and then it comes down and it's like right there, and you're like, that was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy, dude. Yeah. You see all that stuff in movies and how I know there was that one movie that came out.
I think it's Only the Brave.
Only the Brave, dude.
Yeah.
It's an awesome movie, and you see stuff like that, and you're like, wow, like to see everything that, even the stories that you were talking about. It's like, dang, that's some hardcore stuff right there.
Yeah.
You're watching this. You got to watch out for your life, but also the people around you. You got to make sure that they're safe. They get to go back home. They get to go back to their families.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just like being a Christian.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it was funny because you were saying that, and you said saved, and I'm sitting there thinking the same thing. Like I wasn't at that point in time checking to see if anybody was saved. Because where I was at.
Yeah.
And I was in such that I was so trying to, I don't know why I was trying to backslide on that. I knew better. You know what I mean? I knew better the entire time, but it was that hole that I was talking about. It was sitting there telling me, I'm sitting there looking at it and I'm going, I just want to live. I just want to live. I just know if that's something that hit me. I just want to live. I just wanted to fight and chase women and do crazy stuff like, fall trees. I used to, it was one of those things that's the reason why I became a B faller as fast as I did, and I was working on my C because I wasn't scared of falling them. It was like, all right, I fall it and then it hangs up and then I'll walk it down. And I know how to walk it down. I'll figure out how to walk it down. And then just figure it out. Just figure it out and get lucky. Not lucky. Have some type of protection over you.
Yeah.
That somebody's sitting there going, I remember one time I cut one the wrong way to walk it down. I hung it up. There was no way we were in a falling project. It was everywhere. I mean, there was trees. You couldn't walk through there like this. It was so close. The only way to get those trees out was to hang them up or fall them in the road, and there was only so much space in the road. So I started hanging them up. I would have to walk way in, let some of the guys that were maybe not quite as good with the chainsaw, especially since You're not supposed. Here's the other thing, too, Jeremy. You're not supposed to do what I did anyway. I went the first year. I started as a tooler. I started out in the hardest tool to run to, the heaviest tool, and I went from that to being the lead tool. Within by middle of the year, and then by end of the year, I was actually through about 3/4 of the year. I was at Sawyer, an alternate on Sawyer.
What is that?
I was running chainsaw.
Oh, okay.
And then by the end of the year, I was a third team chainsaw. When I came on the next year, my superintendent, because I had come in on the off season, he had seen me, I guess, for 2 or 3 months, just getting in there, working out, grabbing saws, going out and hiking and stuff. And we came in, and I was in good shape. I was in decent shape. I was in better shape than a lot of the guys that were supposed to be sawyers. And he turned around and he said, "James, you're going to be lead saw."
So what is the purpose of lead saw?
Lead saw's got to set the cut. He's got to, number one, he's got to be able to run the line, see where the fire is going to be at. Because if that fire creeps. So for the most part, that fire's here when you start to cut. And so if I start to cut, and if it's running this direction, I've got to cut basically at an angle. What I'm trying to do is remove enough fuel to where it lays down. And by the time that the toolers are getting there, it's tying in, and it's only got a couple inch flame front. Over here, it could have, 1 to 2 foot. You start to get into 3 or 4 foot flame lengths, you're not fighting fire direct. You're gonna have to go indirect and start cutting way over here and back burn and stuff like that. But on direct, you've got to start reading that, and you have to, you got to know the expectation. 12-foot cut, 2-foot deal, and so you start taking a 2-foot or 12-foot cut and figuring it out. And luckily for me, I had that guy that was also in the Army, and we gelled together, and he had been running chainsaw for a while. He taught me a lot on it. He was like, "Yeah, I'll read this right here, and I'd cut it right there, and blah blah blah." And it's a little bit easier to cut this way right here. By the end of the year, we were cutting so fast, man. We were so far ahead. We had to start like bumping back and grabbing tools to really start cutting in, because you start to get too far out, and there's a watch out situation which is having green between you and the fire, which is unburned material. Black is burned material. So, you get to that point where you're getting way out there, and you're starting to think in the back of your head, how far is it if this sucker starts to really get it?
Yeah.
And you start thinking about it, and you're like, yeah, it's way back there. We need to start bumping back, at least putting scratch line in on some of this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
Fought some stuff up in like Shasta Trinity area. Shasta Trinity, I think it was one of the last fires we did. That one was really cool too, but it had a lot of, the tops were all dead in those trees, and we had a bunch of them we had to fall, because they would, if an ember gets in it, it'll burn just straight down through the center. I know a lot of guys that are here that were like in Excel, and when they had that fire here a few years ago, with that grass fire, and get those embers up on the top of the pole would look fine, but all the way at the bottom it'd still be burning. And so we'd have to cut them, but the tops, they'd go, and as soon as they'd go, the top would break and do what we called a folding chair, just fold right back at you. So you had to do that. It was a lot of cut and run type of stuff.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what was life after that?
After that, then it was moved to Texas, which it wasn't supposed to be. I told my buddy that he was getting out of the Army. I was like, man, we'll go down. We got a buddy that we deployed with. They got a lot of work in Odessa for oil field. Let's go see what they got.
Oil field. So what made you want to go to the oil field? After doing that, fighting fires and stuff like that, why oil field?
Well, here's the thing. I told him, because I had the off season for fire, right? So I was going to be off. I was like, I'll just do it. Go do it. I'll go with you. Well, technically, he goes, I'm not going to go unless you're going to go with me. I said, no problem. I said, I know he needs this. He needs to get a job. We'll get him down there, get established. We'll be good to go. At this point in time, I'm kind of, I think I had just broken up with my girlfriend at that point in time. That was the one I had been with from
high school.
And that was a really crazy ordeal as far as that goes, because we broke up, and then within a week, I called her to come get my stuff. and she was under the impression that we were going to talk and get back together, and I laid it down that I was moving to Texas. Like within a week. It was just incredible timing on that type of stuff. Something that's more than a coincidence, if that makes sense. It was kind of meant to be. But we end up moving down here, and I was like, we'll go down there, we'll see if we can get an interview. At that point in time, knowing how the West Coast was, it was like, we'll be down there, and this is like right before Thanksgiving. I was like, they're not gonna hire us right before Thanksgiving. Wrong. Like, we were hired that day. We got down here, we drove like 24 hours, swapping off, slept for 1 or 2 days, got it, and then got into the interview. And they were like, all right, well, we like y'all. When can y'all start? And they're like, oh, we'll go do this. And he goes, we could use you in the field tonight. I was like, what?
Dang it.
So we did that, and then I was still running, still staying in shape the entire time.
So what did you apply for? What did y'all go?
I started out as a well tester. And then I got into hydraulic chokes, and I think I started as a well tester for like 3 or 4 months, and then I got into hydraulic chokes, and I liked the way it was with the progress and how to run into everything, and the money was decent. I went from making, I loved doing that job, to be honest with you. The firefighting job was has been my favorite job ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like almost felt like a calling kind of deal, but it was just, I loved it. I had such pride in it. But then I didn't make anything, man. I think I worked the entire summer, and I probably made like maybe 12 or 13,000. And I went to that to making, almost 100. I was like, I want to go back, but because I love this job, I was like, I can't argue with this.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was, where I was at, and still kind of being on that, maybe not backsliding as much anymore, but at least maintaining some, and just being like, all right, well, we'll use this, we'll get turned around, we'll get back on the right foot, and use this as like, we've already hit bottom, and blah, blah, blah. Keep going. Got into it and just stayed with it for a while. But I'd still go out and drink, still get in fights, still chase women. And then it's funny, man, the little things. J-Ring, his deal when he was talking about, the Holy Spirit talking in a tiny voice, a tiny little voice. And it was one of those things, and I finally, the last fight I got in, it was like, and I used to like to fight multiple people. That's what I liked. I like this. I like the challenge. I've always been a challenge guy. So, it was probably like 6 or 7 people, and I got kicked in the face at the end, and I chipped my tooth. And I woke up in the morning. I ended up getting up. Somebody broke it up, thank God. And I walked back to my hotel room and had a black eye. I put some ice on it. Didn't have to work the next day. And put some ice on it so I didn't have any swelling and all that other stuff. And I woke up in the morning, I looked in the mirror, and I was like, I chipped my tooth. And then I could hear my mother's words as I was a kid. I always wanted to play hockey. I wanted to play hockey growing up. I want to go play hockey. Everybody else is playing hockey. Why can't I go play hockey? No, you can't play hockey because the only thing that we didn't have to pay to fix was your teeth. And so I say that, but it's probably not her words. We didn't have to pay to fix your teeth. It wasn't the only thing. I mean, I didn't really have a whole lot. I didn't break bones when I was a kid, so I was pretty well healthy and stuff like that. But man, that tiny little voice was just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then one of my friends over there, where I was working at, she goes, they called me JJ. She goes, "JJ, why don't you be a lover instead of a fighter?" And I was just like, man, is that something? That sounds like something I already knew. Something I already knew. What am I doing? I'm over here every night doing this and that. And so I started slowing down drinking, a little bit. But that was one of those things. Starting with that small little idea.
Yeah.
That mustard seed of, man, you're a lover, not a fighter. And then start to work out, and you start to get away from fighting and all this other stuff, and then you start getting away from chasing women. You try to settle down, That's where I was at with my current ex-girlfriend. Just wasn't the right woman, but I was trying to settle down. I was trying real hard, and it just needed a next piece. You got to go back to church. Gotta really go back to what you already knew.
Yeah.
And just quit being over here doing the rest of this stuff. You know, sitting here listening to the words of men. You know, it's just a lot of them don't have the truth in it. So you want to continue to sit here, and that's why I remember I was telling you that one time. I was like, oh yeah, that was you. You know, a lot of times when you got this light behind you, and then you decide I'm gonna follow after the words of man or a worldly deal, and you walk over here, and you're like, man, I went so far, and you're like, oh yeah, and then God calls you, and you turn back around, and you go, man, I'm so much farther away from where I was earlier.
I remember that.
And then you start walking back, and you get called the other way, and you start doing this, and you keep flip-flopping. And then I started to realize that, and I was still drinking, and then it was just one night, man, I just, you know, I started to stop. I was able to, so I didn't drink on the deployment. I've always been able to drop it fast or just cold turkey and be done with it for like months and months and months and just be done. And then something, you know, I'd come back with like social drinking or something, and it'd still be there, and then all of a sudden it'd be this thing where you're fine for so long, and then it was like, here comes, what guy is coming out now? Is it the righteous guy, or is it the other guy? It's just flip flop, because you finally got to the point where you're like, I can see the spot, I can see the light where I'm supposed to be at, but I'm going this direction. So you keep flip flopping, and you're having this internal battle. And I finally this last time I put my foot in my mouth on the phone to somebody, and I said, you know what? I'm done with it. Absolutely done with it. I do not need this in my life anymore.
Yeah.
At all. I've got so much more time, or I've got so much other things to do, so much more time to do everything else now, because I don't spend that time trying to get drunk. For what reason?
Yeah.
What was I trying to accomplish back then? It was just chaos, right? It was just one of those things that just numb yourself. And that's why I come back to that saying of whiskey helps. I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either.
No.
So what, did you go to church in Odessa?
I didn't. I spent all my time. I actually did, I did like 24 months straight in the field. And maybe took like a month off.
Dang.
Yeah. And then went right back to work and did that. And I know I was telling you too, at one point in time, once I chipped my tooth and all that stuff, and I was still doing field stuff, moved into a manager position, a field supervisor position, was doing that, and then it just got to the point where I was back in the same thing, feeling like the deployment was coming back. I was working all the time. I was working 24/7. I was getting called back out, and I just reevaluated, sat down and said, you know what? I've only got like maximum a year and a half left on this degree. What am I doing? And I said a prayer. I mean, I read in the field.
Yeah. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that.
Yeah, I read a lot in the field. I guess my idea was, and I know there's a lot of people out there that think this way, that where I am at, that can be church. It can.
Yeah.
It can be. There's a lot of truth in that, but you know, you don't get the benefits of a church where you get the fellowship like you and I have, where you get, where you have the ability to go talk to somebody like Pastor Todd, or come to a place and be a part of a youth group, like with Pastor Mike, with what he's got and what we've got here. You know what I mean? And then be able to talk to the students, be able to learn almost more than what you're teaching anyway, just by doing it.
Yeah.
And I've always been a James guy, so you know, show me faith without deeds. It's one of those things that's always resonated with me.
Yeah.
I'm all, but as well, especially since yesterday, I'm an Old Testament guy too. There's a lot of truth there that we learned. So that's where I was at in the field. I was reading a lot of Old Testament. Still, I think at the same point in time, like even though I read it, where my mind was at, I don't think I really understood it as much as I should have. Like we always talk about, it's a different perspective. And so at that perspective, it was more like, don't do this because this is going to happen, right? Instead of like last night, like if I do this, then it shows not only God, but it shows me where my heart's at, to where I can progress in a different direction. It's no longer about this stuff that's here in the visible, that it's here, and then that controls the body if you let it, and being able to really walk after it.
Yeah.
So like I said, the first half, the beginning portion, even though it had some kind of rocky patches in there, to me, as far as God and religion goes, and Christianity goes, I was in it. I knew it for sure. And then I had this big backslide, or this kind of, maybe not such a backslide, but kind of more of a falling away or a walking away for some reason. I also had an argument with God in there, but that's another point where I knew He was there for sure. That's one of the things I was telling you earlier. I knew for some reason, I knew as a kid early on. I just knew. It was like, I don't know how to describe that. Like, apple pie is good, ice cream's good, God's there.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that I knew. And so when I was still doing, right before I moved to Texas, so it's when I had it. It was probably about a month or so prior. And I just had this big argument for like 6 hours. And I just was trying to show that my will was more than His. And I lost big time. But thankful for it.
Yeah. Learn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like he's always got your back, and you know that.
Right.
Job, that's something both of us are pretty big on. We've been talking about that for, I would say, like since we first met. And that was something that I didn't bring up because, we first met here in Expand. I didn't know you were going to Transformation Church. I know I try to make my way around saying hi to everybody, but I had never seen you over there until Pastor Mike said, we got a new guy here. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then ever since then, it was like, kind of hit it off, It was pretty awesome. And then we talk about Job. All these things happened to Job. God said, you know what, Satan, go do whatever you want. He's not gonna turn his back on me. Kind of with you, it's, he let you like, oh yeah, he can go do his own will, but he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Like, I know he will.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's an interesting concept on some of that too. I think on some of that, when He knows that you're strong enough and you believe enough, sometimes He lets Satan go over there and do that, because then there's 2 or 3 others that are over here that aren't quite as far as where you're at. And while he's over here doing this, these can grow.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm still trying to figure out that, but it's something that just kind of hit me the last 2 or 3 days. It's like, man, maybe that's what that is. We can't lean on our understanding anyway.
Yeah. And sometimes, we do. It's like, and like I think we were talking the other day, it's like, man, I just want to understand this, God. Like, help me understand this more. But then again, it's, you know what? Okay.
We may never.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And you're right,
But that's a definition of faith, right? When it really comes down to it, that we may never know the truth behind a lot of this in this form, right? In this human form. I know we were talking about earlier that, we're only human. And we are. I agree with you. And I don't like sometimes hearing that either, but at the same point in time, we're in this form.
Yeah.
Even Paul said it. He said, oh, this body.
Yeah. That's right.
Right?
Yeah. And then now that that's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
And that's, Man, I think I hit that probably about a year or two ago, and I was like, there it is. I'm over here thinking that I'm not doing it right. No, you got to really get into this idea, which is the truth, that you've got several portions of your being. One being a spirit, one being the mind, and one being the body. And depending on which one's stronger, that mind will follow, even though it's stronger than the body. If the body's sitting there going, oh, I really don't want to do this today, but it's pulling, and you're not growing the spirit to where the spirit's gone. Now you know better than that.
Yeah.
You know better than that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's really hit me since the beginning of this year is I know better.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely know better. And you can't convince me of it any other way. And I know that I might stumble and I might fall, but I'm still going to get back up. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
There's no other option on that.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I like a challenge anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, heck yeah. And so after Odessa, like, I guess you moved here to Seminole.
I moved to Monahans.
Oh, Monahan.
And then I moved to the Seminole.
And then when you got here, you found Transformation Church. Was that like the first church you visited, or did you visit?
Actually, yeah, that was. And the main reason is because it was non-denominational. So a lot of that, it's just kind of one of those things that I kind of wrestled with it. I was actually wrestling with it. I was like, maybe I'll go back to being Methodist. I liked my old Methodist church. Maybe I'll go back to it. I started talking to my mom about it. I was like, what do you think? And she was like, maybe you try non-denom just to try to get back into it. And I walked in, and I think Jade was singing Waymaker. And I was like, what? And then Pastor Todd got in there, and I think he was saying something about, I think he was in like Proverbs 3. And then me being me, I was just like, I'm going to flip over right quick to this page and see what else is around this, just to see what we got for context. And I would think I was in Proverbs 5, and it just hit me like a brick. It was like the lips of an adulteress are sweet like honey, but her feet lead to death. And I was like, at this point in time, me and my ex-girlfriend were starting to be rocky, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I got to get her over here, and we either need to grow as one flesh, or I think we need to be done. So, because it had been kind of back and forth on some of this stuff, and she came, and I think she went 2 or 3 times, and she was just like, it's not for me. I was like, no, I think we're done. Just being straight up.
Yeah, yeah. And look at you now, though. Look where you're at.
Yep.
I didn't know you when you first, when all that happened. But to see where you're at now, even here, to see your heart, like I said at the very beginning, like, you have a servant's heart. Like, that's awesome. Not to say that it's hard to find, but it is. Very rare.
Right.
And it's awesome, man. Like, it's a gift that you have, and I think that's a gift that everybody should have, maybe we're just lazy at it. We shouldn't be.
You know what? That's a good point, because it's not easy, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think something that hit me pretty hard was, even Jesus washed Peter's feet. And even though Peter probably didn't want it, he still did. Mm-hmm. Because what's the last spot that we wash, right? Is our feet. Yeah. In order to be, and he told him, he said, man, if I don't do this, then you won't be accepted when you come to the door.
Yeah, exactly.
So, then back to, pick up your cross and
follow his lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
There's 7 ways to do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I've been here in Seminole, I think this is going on 3 years. Actually, 3 years, I think, August 1st.
And you've been going to Transformation Church?
Since the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So it's relatively new back on it, but like I said, there towards the last year or 2, I really started getting back in reading my Bible again. Had a lot of time. I was doing, and he works in really, really awesome ways, but when I came over here, I was doing engineering. And I was always busy. I had no time for anything. And I think I was working like 80 hours a week here in town and just nonstop, just going, working weekends and all other stuff. And then my buddy left where we were at, and he left a position open as a supervisor, and I took it. And so it was another thing. I had a little bit more time during the day, but I had call out overnight. So I'd be on call, even though I might not have to go to the field or go over, because I had rain basically all the way from Plainview all the way to Roswell, Carlsbad, here, and all the way up through Post.
No, wow.
Stuff like that. And I had 8 crews that I was in charge of, and it seemed like I was always on call, especially for storm call out, and that's what it was for, storm call out. So I hit that, and I was doing that, and it just seemed like the better I got at things and the more time I got, the more I got back into the book. It was like I was telling Nathan this yesterday. I've always been, math has been my thing. I went through in high school. I graduated with calc. I had calc. I passed the calc AP exam and stuff like that. So I had calc credit.
Yeah. And
I've taken through calculus 3, differential equations, stuff like that. When it just comes to it, like in how he puts it in Good Will Hunting. You know, like people can play a piano, blah blah blah. I can't play a piano, but I can play math. Right, so it's always been one of those things that, and even though I don't do it all the time now, I do it all the time. I used to walk around if I was going to a job site, I could rattle you off a pretty dang close, like within $5,000 what the bid would be for that, and people were just like, "What?" Just flabbergasted, and it's like, well, this is what I do, so, or that's what I was gifted with, so. I don't remember where I was going with that, but what I was telling Nathan is in there is that at one point in time, and this has been recently, but I looked at it. I've got all these books because I have an engineering degree. I've got all these books on my bookshelf. I've read all of them. I read a lot of books, and I looked at them. I'm like, and it just hits me from Good Will Hunting when he's in there and he's looking at it there. He's looking at Robin Williams' books and he goes, "Got all the wrong books." And to me, I looked at him, I just said it out of jest. I was just like, "Got all the wrong books." And I took another step back and I was like, they are the wrong books. I said, except for this one. I pulled my Bible out. I said, that's the one. It was just one of those things they're all the wrong books. They take so much time away from everything else. It's the only one you really need.
Yeah.
He'll give you the skills to do the rest of it.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. I believe it. Dude. Love it, man.
Yeah.
Been good. It's always good talking to you, though. Even when we stay up till 2 in.
Hey, we can do that every night, but I don't know if I can do that every night, man. I'll be worn out.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I know. 2 Fridays ago, you and Tudor stayed.
Yep.
Last Friday, Andre stayed till 2.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talking. Good thing I didn't have to work the next day. But it's just the conversations, fellowship that we have, man. I love it. You know, just hearing everybody's perspective on different things. And it's just a good talk.
Right.
Something that we all need for sure.
Yeah, it's always good to talk. I mean, that's the best thing. If I could boil it down to coming back to church, that's the best thing, is having the multiple perspectives, multiple people that, and I know I sent that deal out in James the other day, one of the last verses of James, which kind of, to me, I took it a little bit differently probably than everybody else took it, but, you know, even though you may err, right, that type of stuff, it gives me confidence in that, that even though I may err and I'm around people like y'all, if I may err and I may fall away, y'all are still there.
Yeah.
Y'all are going to go ahead and be like, "Hey, James, you know, which I don't foresee that, but, you know, it's one of those things like, James, you know, I don't know what you were thinking right there, but come back over here a little bit."
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we're here, you know, discipleship.
Right.
You got to have discipleship, man. And I had said something like, why invite people to church if there's no discipleship? You got to have that discipleship,
Yeah.
accountability, and everything. That's why God put us here. You got to have that.
One of the things that I really liked about TC right off the bat was, man, the stop and I had never really seen it, but 5 minutes, go shake somebody's hand. And when that happened, I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you get so used to just sitting in one area. I know you used to sit on this other side, and then you moved over here.
Yeah, now I'm on the good side.
Now you're on the good side. The other side's the bad side. You don't want to sit now. But to make it a point to go and greet other people that are maybe sitting in the back or on the other side, I've noticed, like, man, there's still a lot of people in church that I don't know.
Right.
It's like, wow, man, man, I need to get on the ball. I need to see who these people are, and not to say that I don't have time for them. It's just, dude, like, I'm just getting to know you, and
Right.
you've been going at the beginning of the year, so it's just, man, to get to know different people, and then you have the new couple show up. Not the husband show,
yeah.
Jill and Vincent.
Yeah. Man,
Like
I went and sought him out this last weekend. I told him, I was like, man, you got a lot of people talking about like how you can remember those verses and stuff.
Yeah.
I said, I think you really need to share that. I said, where I'm at, I can't do it. And he said, don't say that. And I said, you're right. Everything's possible through Christ. So you're right on that. But I think you need to share some of the secrets on that. Man, the way he rattled them out, and he knew them in his heart. He knew 'em.
And that's why to me, it's so important to have that fellowship, to have that discipleship. You need it, just to help one another. Like, we can be talking about a scripture. I'm gonna have to go and look it up. Yeah, I may not know it up here, but then I'm like, oh, okay, that's what he was talking about.
Right.
And then read more about it, and then bam, more revelation on it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I'd like to point this out. I mean, I've only been coming back to church, even though I had some in me right before, but coming back just from the beginning of the year. And I like what Pastor Mike said not too long ago. A lot of the disciples of Jesus were young,
Yeah.
and they only had like 6 months with them. So think about that. I mean, I've been coming here probably for 8 months. Just if you come in and you dedicate and you do it and you spend some time, like I said the other night at Circles, 10 minutes. It takes 10 minutes, and the problem is with me is if I read 10 minutes, I'm not going to read 10 minutes. I'm going to read almost an hour and a half. So it ends up, since I really started doing that, and I don't know how long that's been. I don't even know. It's been probably at least 2.5 months since I really started dedicating that. And I think I said this at Circles, but I started looking, I was like, okay, what really resonated with me from Pastor Todd saying, thou shalt not have other gods before me. And then you start thinking about what are other gods. If you're seeking after money instead of after God, it's pulling you away. And if you're doing that all the time and you're spending 50% of your day doing that,
Yeah.
that's not, I know it's old covenant stuff and it's been forgiven, but at the same point in time, at the same point in time, the two most important are, love thy God with all thy heart and love thy neighbor as thyself. And the rest of the commandments come from those. So if you spent at least 51% of the time either thinking, praying, or seeking his word through the book, and you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's a change in heart, which to me, like I said, I was pretty hard-hearted. Especially when I was out chasing women and whatnot, I was pretty hard-hearted. I know it for sure. It was just like,
Yeah, we were all there.
yeah.
We were all there.
It is what it is.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, man. Honored, man. Very honored that you joined me here.
I'm glad that you invited me. I really am. I don't even know how long it's taken, but I didn't think I was going to have much to talk about, to be honest with you. I was kind of sweating it. Like, I'm going to be over here 15 minutes.
No, man, dude. You have no idea, like, how, yeah. Like, you can be talking, and then I'll look at the time, and I'm like, okay, nice, So, yeah, man, I mean, I love it. Like, I enjoy listening more than I like to talk, I guess. That's why I hardly ever talk, but I like to listen. I'm real observant.
I've noticed though, when especially at 2 o'clock in the morning, so the stuff you say, man, it may not have to take very long, but it's got some good stuff in it. You know what I mean? It's there. It's right there.
Thanks, sir.
I mean, and it even, I already told you, but it made me search my heart on some of it and going, there it is. Let me pull that scab off.
Yeah. No, it's been amazing getting to know you for sure. Love it. Love that you're part of our circles. Love that you're here to expand. You know, it's needed.
Yeah, this is, I didn't say it yesterday. I had this big, that's why I was telling you yesterday I was like, man, I had this big thing I wanted to say. I was, Wednesday nights. I know a lot of people, Mondays, Wednesdays. If you got to work, Mondays, Wednesdays. It's another Monday, it's another Wednesday. No, I love Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Wednesdays are arguably the best night of the week for me. I love it.
No, I definitely agree. I agree. 100%, man. I agree. You have social media. If somebody wanted to give you a follow or maybe holler or whatever, okay. Well, if not, then give me a holler, and if he wants me to give your number, I'll do that. Other than that, but yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, No Holds Podcast. I'm on there. Subscribe, follow, like, share. Man, put it out there. This dude is single.
Nah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Don't even get me into Matthew on that one.
No. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Unless you're a Christian girl, then no. Just kidding, bro. Just kidding. But yeah, man, enjoyed it, loved it. Very honored that you were on here. And until next time, man, we are out. Peace.